Hey, my name is Greg, and together with Anna, Sari, Cynthia, and Ernesto, we are Group 15. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Chapter 15, which deals with organizational change, as discussed in our book, Organizational Behavior. Now, I know what you may be thinking. What are the key concepts? How does this even relate to the real world?
That party last night was awfully crazy. I wish we taped it.
What's the Lewin's force field analysis model, bruh? Hey, girl, trying to understand your resistance to change. Hold up. What are the 4 approaches to organizational change? Yo, DJ, roll it back up. Could you, go over the 5 principles of appreciation inquiry? That'd be great. Thanks. Yes, sir, right away. How did I get here?
Let's start with the fundamentals. Roll that PowerPoint.
So the first concept of Chapter 15 is the Lewin's force field analysis model. In order to preserve its longevity, a company must abide by the following rule. In order to survive, companies must adapt to change. Consider the example presented to us in our textbook about the Ford Motor Company, which reveals how CEO Alan Mulally created an urgency for change, revised systems and structures to support the change, introduced a pilot project through the Ford Focus Development Team, which spearheaded the company's new global approach and continuously communicated the change process. Through these methods, Ford was able to adapt and change despite the recession, and it continued to do business into the future. So what is the Lewin's force field analysis model? Its definition is a model of system-wide change that helps change agents diagnose the forces that drive and restrain the proposed organizational change. So this is what the Lewin's force field analysis model looks like. One side of the force field model represents the driving forces that push organizations toward a new state of affairs. These might include new competitors or technologies, evolving workplace expectations, or a host of other environmental changes. The other side of the Lewin's model represents the restraining forces that maintain the status quo. And these restraining forces are commonly called resistance to change because they appear to block the change process. Stability occurs when the driving and restraining forces are roughly in equilibrium. That is to say, they are of approximately equal strength in opposite directions. Unfreezing is defined as the first part of the change process in which the change agent produces disequilibrium between the driving and restraining forces, whereas refreezing is defined as the latter part of the change process in which systems and structures are introduced that reinforce and maintain the desired behaviors. The second concept of Chapter 15 deals with understanding resistance to change. There are several reasons why employees resist change. Change management experts have developed a long list of reasons people do not embrace change. Some people resist change because of their personality and values, or their dispositional factors. However, employees often lack the motivation or commitment to change when they believe the change will fail, is the wrong action for the situation, or will be costly to them personally. Motivation, ability, and role misperceptions are the foundations of the 6 most commonly cited reasons people resist change. The 6 reasons are direct costs, saving face, fear of the unknown, breaking routines, incongruent team dynamics, and incongruent organizational systems. Concept 3, unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. This concept provides strategies for minimizing resistance to change. Let's look at the first strategy. Communication. Communication is the highest priority and first strategy required for any organizational change. It is applied when employees don't feel an urgency for change, don't know how the change will affect them, or resist change due to the fear of the unknown. Second is learning. Learning is an important process in most change initiatives because employees require new knowledge and skills to fit the organization's evolving requirements. Learning is applied when employees need to break old routines and adopt new patterns. Employee involvement. Employee involvement is an essential part of the change process. It is applied when the change effort needs more employee commitment. Some employees need to save face and/or employ ideas that would improve decisions about the change strategy. Organizational change is a stressful experience for many people because it threatens self-esteem and creates uncertainty about the future. Communication, learning, and employee involvement can reduce some of the stressors. As long as people resist change, organizational change strategies will require a variety of influence tactics. Negotiation is a form of influence that involves the promise of benefits or resources in exchange for the target person's compliance with the influencer's request. It is applied when employees will clearly lose something of value from the change and will not otherwise support the new conditions, also necessary when the company must change quickly. Lastly, if all else fails, leaders rely on coercion to change organizations. Coercion can include persistently reminding people of their obligations, frequently monitoring behavior to ensure compliance, confronting people who do not change, and using threats of sanctions to force compliance. It's only applied when other strategies are ineffective and the company needs to change quickly. Leadership, coalition, and pilot projects. Firstly, leadership. A leader's vision provides a sense of direction and establishes the critical success factors against which the real changes are evaluated. Coalitions. One of the great truths of organizational change is that change agents cannot lead the initiative alone. They need the assistance of several people with a similar degree of commitment to the change. A guiding coalition is a formally structured group, but change also occurs more informally through social networks. Change and pilot projects. Change can be achieved through four main mediums: motivation, ability, role perceptions, and situational factors. And our last concept, the four approaches to organizational change. Are you still awake? I wouldn't blame you. Did I not warn you that this chapter was a little much? Well, here it is. Let's wrap this up with the four approaches to organizational change. The four approaches to organizational change include the action research approach, the appreciative inquiry approach, the large group interventions approach, and the parallel learning structures approach. Our first approach is the action research approach, which is defined as a problem-focused change process that combines action orientation and research orientation through data collection and analysis. Appreciative inquiry approach. Appreciative inquiry approach is defined as an organizational change strategy that directs the group's attention away from its own problems and focuses participants on the group's potential and positive elements. Appreciative inquiry embraces the 5 key principles, which are positive principle, constructionist principle, simultaneity principle, poetic principle, and anticipatory principle. Next is the large group intervention approach, which involves future search, that is an organizational change strategy that consists of system-wide group sessions, usually lasting a few days, in which participants identify trends and establish ways to adapt to those changes. And lastly, the parallel learning structure approach, which is a highly participative arrangement composed of people from most levels of the organization who follow the action research model to produce meaningful organizational change. You guys are still there? Wow, that's actually impressive. You sat through this whole presentation with me sounding like a robot, and yet you're still sitting there. You know, I tell you what, let's show a video of my group putting together a presentation of what Chapter 15 is all about. Thanks for watching, by the way. All right, new jams for a new decade.
Didn't start
Hey, do you want to see something really cool?
Sure.
Check this out. It's got color.
Hey guys, say cheese.
Wow! What was that?
That was my camera phone.
Huh?
Yeah, it has 2 megapixels.
Maybe what?
Megapixels.
Alright, a self-portrait. We'll call it a selfie. What are you doing?
Texting. Hi, Greg. Just having a fight.
Yeah, bro. I'm gonna go home and update my MySpace.
You still using MySpace?
Yeah, why?
It's called Facebook.
What's here? Bye, babe.
You love your phone?
No. I was FaceTiming.
What? You can do that on the phone?
Yeah. Hi, Greg.